Hey, welcome to another episode of Phil John's VIP on a Tuesday night. I had to log off for a little bit just to get my guest together to come on tonight. But thank you for joining me on a special Tuesday night. It's going to be Tuesday for this week and next week. Um, I appreciate you guys who logged in for the first time. Paul, brother, if you could come back, please do. Whatever, again, I'm going to repeat what I just said before I had to log off. For those who cannot catch the live, trust me, you can find it on IGTV. If not on IGTV, you can go to my YouTube page and check everything out there. My guest tonight is Natasha Straley. I'm kind of preoccupied because I want Natasha to actually send me a request and come aboard. Let's see what's going on here. All right, give me a second. Oof. Here we go. I want to get her because I don't want any hiccups. So give me a second, please. Pause. All right, I gotta start over. She's here, so I can start over.
Technology.
My guest tonight is Natasha Straley. She is a director, producer, extraordinaire. I have known Tasha for about, I'm going to say 15, no, about 13 years.
Yeah.
Around the time 13 years. And I'm excited to have her on tonight because she's probably one of the most brilliant and smartest women that I know in the industry. There's a lot of things that I've learned from Tasha. She's turned me on to everything that has to do with directing, to like any new hot spots, especially Gregory's Coffee, any cinnamon tea, no, spicy hot chocolate, all that stuff. Tasha is always turning me on to something new. Once again, she's brilliant at what she does. She's a person who pays attention to detail. She's a female director who's on the rise, and her films have been making its way throughout the festival circuits in the country. And I am so happy and gracious that she gave me some time tonight to come down and sit and have a conversation with me, just to catch up, to let you guys know what she's been up to, for me to introduce you to her so you can start following her, because I truly believe that the work is just beginning, but the best is yet to come.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my friend Natasha Straley.
Yay. Oh my God. Thank you so thank you, Phil John. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so like taken back to coffee days and like Bryant Park, and I'm like, oh man.
Because it was always like, where we're gonna meet somewhere, where we're gonna meet. Then we go there, and it's like this place. I'm like, Tasha, where did you hear about this place? Oh, I just Googled it. I found it.
That's like my favorite thing, is to go someplace new and just be like, what is here? Like, who is here? What's going on? I love like discovering and exploring all the things. So New York was like never ending, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always something new. I think the last time I saw you, we were at an event at the public theater. And then after that, I just saw your work kind of just flourish. Um, Let me start by saying, where did it begin for you as far as performing arts?
Oh man. Um, oh man. I was a dancer. So I started as a like ballet tap jazz kid, and then I ended up on the dance team in high school and dance company in college, and I still socially dance, and I make dance films now. So that's still here. I ended up studying architecture actually my freshman year in college because I had no idea what I wanted to do, and um, didn't enjoy it the way other people did. And I thought, well, let's try acting, like let's try it. Then I can be everything, which is not a great reason to become an actor. But I ended up going to school for it and falling in love with it, and then falling in love with both sides of it. So my BFA is in theater and acting and directing, and then I ended up doing a bunch of film after school.
I always felt like you had this just niche for the business part of the business, and kind of knowing how to pull things together. And just to let everyone know that I've always had my thing is I've always had a gift for writing and coming up with all kind of ideas. And Tasha was the first person to actually direct a little piece that I wrote. And um, she's always been a person who paid attention to detail. And there's some people, just like when people say, like, when they have a skill, whether it's acting or dancing, some people got it, some people don't. But when it comes down to producing and paying attention to details and making it all come together, that's kind of like, some people have it, some people don't, and you have it. So is that something that's kind of like just innate, or did you learn that?
Thank you. I think it comes from that same place of needing to explore and finding all the things. Like the way that my brain works is I want to understand it all. So when I moved to New York as an actor, I was like, cool, I'm gonna get a job in the agency. I'm gonna understand how this works. I'm gonna get a job at a casting director's office and like figure out how this works. Like I want to understand the logistics behind all of the things and understanding that what we do is a business. So yes, we have this beautiful craft of artistry that we get to experience and share with the world. How does that fit into the business side of things? Because it is a product
And
as well.
a lot of people don't know that. Like it is like cookies, you know. It's like packaging cookies.
Really good cookies.
Right, right. And the cookies can be great, and you can have a skill at baking, but how can you make this a lucrative business? How do you make it work for you?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that a lot of conservatories and schools that people spend all this money to
Oh,
attend don't teach you.
I was the only one in my class in college who had an agent. And it was nobody was teaching that in school. It was something that I was like, cool, like I'm getting my education. Also, I'm gonna be working and getting paid for acting in industrials and commercials and feature films while I'm in school. So they don't talk about it. They don't really prepare you for it. And I think things are changing. I think people are starting to acknowledge this and um, shift gears a little bit. No, I mean, I wish that it were more available to artists and teaching artists that what you are ultimately doing is running your own business. And once you can wrap your head around that, then you can strategically make moves with your career to get you to that next level.
Do you think that it's like is kind of designed that way on purpose for people to kind of walk blindly and cluelessly?
And I could talk about this. Um, I think that our society kind of teaches us that like you're either an artist or you make money, and I think that's bullshit.
Yeah,
Artists do need to make money. Like what we offer is of value,
right.
of monetary value, and we should be compensated for what we do. So I'm not sure where it got mixed up, but that is something that I frequently I coach actors and I frequently hear this from the actors that I work with, and I have to um, typically guide people into believing that their work deserves an income. And I just had a conversation today about negotiating their, and it's like for everybody out there, when they ask you what your rate is, your response is, "What is your budget?" And then when they come back at you, you add 20%.
Amen.
Pay for what you do.
Amen. You have to.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I thought about the fact that we're still having the conversation about equal pay in this industry for women, and I think that I'm gonna say this with the humblest, respect for Monique, the comedian. For those who know, I mean, you have to be sleeping under a rock to know that she was going back and forth trying to get a deal she felt was sufficient for her for a Netflix comedy special, and she got kind of a lot of kickback for that. And she was saying how, like, when you look back and you start to ask women how much they're making compared to their male counterparts, it's biased, you know.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes I think a lot of people come in the industry just wanting to be artists. Like, I just want to act. But I also see the people who have been in it for a long time, the sustainability, you have to fight to sustain. And that requires you to be a good business person.
Yes. Yes. You have to, again, it comes back to knowing that it's a business. It's funny you brought that up because I just had a conversation this weekend with somebody who started working at a new company, and he ended up going to lunch with a colleague, with a woman that he works with, and he was like, "Hey, this is how much money I make. Are you making that?" And she said yes, and he was like, "Great, this is a good company." And I think that that's something that is helpful, is to be really transparent with how much you are making and being honest about it, and that's a way for us to all help one another and say, well, and I have an actress who did this, who negotiated her own contract. Yes, she did. She was amazing. And she did such a good job. And on set, the other actors ended up talking about how much they were being paid, and everybody was being paid significantly lower than she was. And they decided to talk to production, and they were like, hey, this is not cool. And they ended up paying everybody the rate that she negotiated. So there are ways of correcting this.
I,
There are
I
ways.
want to I want to play devil's advocate.
Ah.
Okay?
Well, yeah, as a producer, I'm
Now,
like,
now, um, culturally, and I'm sure if anybody's watching this, what I'm about to say, if you agree with me or you not even agree with me, but if you understand where I'm coming from, every Afro-American, Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Latino that I know that comes from a culture that's male-dominated, I remember being in college, going over a mentor's house. It was a group of us that went, and his wife walked in the house, and we were all talking in the living room, and he was drinking cognac and smoking a cigar and talking to us. And he said, listen, you don't ever tell a woman how much money you make.
oh,
Right. So a lot of us had grown up with the mentality like, wait a minute. The one thing you don't talk a lot to your woman about a lot of things, but one thing you don't talk about to women about is money. So how do we get past that? How do you make people feel comfortable? Men that were raised like that. How do you make us feel comfortable talking? Even though at this point, I'm like, if you make money and I make money, if we make money, the world is happy. Like, our world is happy. But
right.
how do you have that conversation? Because not too many men are going to go to a woman or feel the need to come to a woman and say, hey, listen, how much money do you make? Just so that he can have her back on that.
Right. I think that you could probably speak to that better than I can about how to encourage a man to have that conversation, and to feel comfortable. I think that really it comes down to feeling secure in who you are, and knowing that uh, that that this doesn't change who you are, it doesn't change your worth,
Yeah.
uh, and trusting that the person that you're communicating with is going to be respectful of your experience. And um, like I've been on some sets where they're not going to have this conversation with the people that I'm working with because they're not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily on the same page with me. And versus like if I'm on set with you, like I'm going to be texting you ahead of time and be like, cool, like what, like
Right.
let's,
Right.
and come out and say it. Um, but that's interesting. I mean, that's a whole cultural background that
Because I think, and I'm not let me just make it clear. I'm not saying exclusively about men of color, because I know there are all men that have that kind of background where, that kind of conservative background where you don't discuss money with women.
yeah,
But I think for us to
I
move forward, that conversation has to happen.
yes, which is not comfortable, which is really like it could be painful to have that conversation, but it's through that pain that healing is available to us, and it is looking at those dark shadows and the things that you don't want to acknowledge, that like that's where the healing is. That's where the good stuff is. That's how we progress, is you pay attention to that shit, and then you're able to move forward and you're able to grow together and unite.
So how did you make the transition from being an actress in front of the camera to now saying, I'm going to take on directing?
I so I had some success as an actress, and I found that, and I do still occasionally act in something, but I found that I want to tell the story. I found that the perspective that I brought to the table wasn't really being the story being told, and I don't know. I just got excited to write my own work and to direct my own work, and um, direct other people's writing. I think is super fun. Like for several years, I've made a living directing other people's short films, and it's been amazing, the projects that I've been able to work on and be a part of. And you can tell that, like, I don't know, like the very first time I was directing something, I was actually producing, and it was something that I had written, and the director bailed last minute. And I was like, well, I'm not getting rid of all the work I just did. Like, I've got all this lined up. I got my locations. I got like everything set and ready to go. I was like, and like the whole way to set, what am I doing? Like, what have I decided to do? And I panicked. And then I ended up stepping on set, and right away, somebody asked me a question, like, do you want this or this? And I was like, oh, that. And I was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, this is what everything has been leading up to. I've worked in every department on a film set, so I can communicate with each department, understand their needs, and I'm able to. I don't know. I love directing. I love being on the other side of it. I love producing. If the director together, I love like all this kind of funny medium that we work in, and I love the collaboration.
Is it more gratifying for you wearing that hat?
The director, it's different. It's like, I mean, I kind of love, at this point in my career, I love showing up as an actor, and I'm like, cool, all I'm doing is acting today. Like, I'm gonna like do the thing. And that's not to dismiss all of the work that goes into being an actor, because there's a ton of work. Um, and then as a director, it's just like a different muscle, but it's also understanding what the actor needs on set in that moment to bring this life. And I love being there for that. Like, I do love that support and that sort of light bulb that goes off in the actor's eye, and they're like, oh yeah, I know, yeah, let's roll, let's do this. And like, that's okay, that's cool. Yeah, I love that part.
Do you always keep a director's cut?
Do I always keep a
Is
direct?
there always a director's cut for you to have in your repertoire?
I
Oh,
have final cut in my contract.
okay, got you.
So if you hire me to direct, you're going to get a film directed by me. And that's just something that I learned early on, that this is, and I even tell writers, I'm like, cool, whatever you send me, whatever you have in your mind is not going to be what happens on the final project, right? Because I'm going to take this thing and I'm going to transform it. And the art department is going to transform it. And the cinematography is going to transform it. And the actors are going to transform it. And if we lean into that unknown, then this is going to be better than any of us ever imagined.
Right,
But if you want me to create this thing that you already have in mind, then you should direct it.
right,
Yeah.
right. I know, and because I trust Tasha so much. I trust her work. I trust her vision. Like if you connect, and I'm speaking from a personal, like I am interviewing her, but I'm speaking from a personal perspective. But if she has a vision, she has a way of capturing your vision. And when you have a director that does that, then you trust them to give birth to, because there are some things that maybe you didn't even anticipate or think of that comes up in the in post production,
I
right?
love what you said about trust. I
Yeah,
think that's it. And if you have trust with your entire team, then you're in a good place. And I'm producing a project right now, and the director and I spent an hour and a half on the phone last night talking about the current cut of something, and we're just like going back and forth. And I'm like, no, and he's like, but this, and I'm like, but no, and I'm like back and forth, and we're able to have that conversation and realize that that conversation is going to push the project to a higher level, and it comes out of trust and respect for each other. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
like sometimes things can turn ugly and you can turn into a fight, but if as long as you have that trust, then it's like, cool, we can do this together. I got your back, mine. Let's honor the story.
Tell me a little bit about Sidestep.
Sure. Okay, so Sidestep is a short country western dance film that I wrote and directed a few years ago. It's finally, with COVID in the way that it works, because it doesn't exist anymore. It's getting into the film festival circuit now, and I'm so excited that it's finally being seen. And I had an amazing team on that, and really like getting at it every day, just like getting the right people around you and being like, cool, this is the vision, go. And then it turns into,
A lot of hearts with that one just came up. Yeah.
oh good, good.
That
Yeah, yeah.
had
So
a lot of your DNA in it, right? Meaning that it really was
oh,
coming from a lot of things that you were familiar with in that project.
yeah. Yeah, so I was working at an office in New York City, which you might be familiar,
Yeah.
and there was a lot of pressure to be a certain way and
Right.
to deliver, you know, to deliver.
Yeah.
In Sidestep, she has that pressure of a job that's waiting for her to come back from her mother's funeral, and she kind of has that pull, like, do I go back to the city and like finish this job that I was going to do, or do I like go hang out on a dance floor because that's fun, like, so that's her
And just finding your
there,
way. And
which
just
is what.
and just finding your way.
Yeah, and like figuring out like what you care about, which
Yeah.
may not make sense to anybody else, and knowing and trusting that that's right for you, and then honoring it.
What are the stories what are the stories that you hope to tell during this journey, along this journey?
So my work is based in supporting equality, and I think that it's important for everyone's voices and perspectives to be heard. Um, you may not understand it, but respect it. And I hope that the audience leaves feeling inspired and uplifted and full of hope. I think that some of the creativity that's out there has the potential to pull kind of down into a black hole, because I think that, it's like when you're in that space, that's lonely and it sucks. And you're like, come hang out with me down here.
Yeah.
And I steer away from that. So I want the audience to be like, cool, like this sucks down here, but also there's all these beautiful things in life. And if you can take that breath and expand and step into your day as your full self, and trust yourself on this world, then that, like, kind of a tall order for a short film, but
Mm-hmm.
that's the feeling that I want people to be left with and inspired to create their own, because we're all creators, every single person.
Someone asked me last night what kind of films am I into? What kind of films do I like? And the response was, for me, is like any film that explores the human condition,
Yeah.
where we see humanity in conflict with others and itself.
And
And
how is conflict resolved?
yeah,
Like, how do we get along to that step? I love that. I can totally. I think that's why you and I get along so well.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
you get that part of humanity, and yeah.
Because there's stories you can tell that are universal, that cross cultural backgrounds. It's just a human story, and I think that a couple of films that I really liked last year was Sound of Metal. I thought that was brilliant, a brilliant job. Nomadland. I thought that was incredible. Um,
The character driven.
yeah, character driven.
Like, is that so you? Those are the stories that you want to tell, yeah?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because a lot of times we have people out in the world thinking that their situation is unique to them because nobody's telling it. But when you actually give it a voice and you give it face, it's like, oh, I'm really not alone. And I think the best films are the films that you can connect with.
Yeah.
You know?
I think
Every,
that
everybody knows that I'm an old head when it comes down to like watching old television. And I think one of my favorite TV shows was All in the Family. Everybody knows I love All in the Family. And I think there was a scene, and I know you can find it on YouTube somewhere, but Archie comes back. Edith dies, and Archie comes back to the bedroom, and her slippers are still underneath the bed, and he has this conversation with her not being there, and you see this man that have come across for however many seasons the show has been on as very bigoted, not very educated, doesn't see the world, with a wide lens, very narrow minded. But then you see him in this situation that anybody that's ever lost someone in their life, everybody can connect. It's like he has that redeeming quality, and that's what humanity is. Humanity is multi-layered. We are not all one-dimensional, and that's what I love to see on the screen.
I love
Layers.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that one thing that connects all that all of us have felt to some degree. And if you can get that in the story, then it's like everybody gets it, which
Everybody gets
you
it.
know, it's so funny because while I was waiting for this, I was checking out your Instagram highlights. So I watched your church's chicken. I loved it. And there was that moment you were like, chicken? Oh. And like, like the reason that it works, your performance works, is because we've all been there that we're like, oh, what about this?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
And decision, then you decide to put something together. You're like, wow, I didn't know this was a combination,
right. And
but
so
it's good.
like you as the actor, you identified like what is the human universal experience here? Because that's what you bring to life,
Yeah,
you know? Because what does the script say? Like,
right. Exactly.
it's your job to bring that to life, and you did a great job. So,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. A lot of people like that film. My cue that I know that I'm landing the funny is when I hear everyone in Video Village cracking up. If they cracking up, then I'm doing my job.
yeah.
That's how it works. Yeah, man. But I'm so happy to have you here. There's so many things I wanted to talk to you about, but I want to know what are you what's your plan moving forward? What's next for you?
Uh,
Directing wise.
what's that?
Directing.
Directing wise, I'm working on my first feature film, and that's the big like thing right now. In the meantime, I've got two short films in post production. I just released a country music video that I love very much, and then I've got the feature on the horizon. So I love country music. I think it's great, but I hate the lyrics. So I'm rewriting country music from the feminist perspective. So that's the video that came out this summer. He says his thing, and she's like, no, actually, this. And I worked with an amazing vocalist, Shane Marie, in San Antonio, Texas, and put this music video together this summer, and it was outstanding. And the feature film that is in the works is in that same realm. So it's very feminist driven and country western, and it's kind of a perspective on rural America that we don't see a lot of.
Right. That's nice. I
Yeah,
you know, I grew up, at the time that I grew up, I like all music. Anybody know me? I'm a music lover, but country music is one of my favorites.
yes, like old school, like what?
Old school, like and you did, and Tasha. I hate to drop names because every time I do, you always look at me like you have no clue what I'm talking about.
Blank
You go
stare.
like,
That's the face I make. I
that's
support.
great.
No, but
But my grandmother used to watch. It was a show called Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell Sisters. You have no idea who they are. Yeah. So
there's so many things I don't know.
so from that to there was Hee Haw, there was Alabama. I remember that because they used to win awards every year in the country music section back in the 80s, back in the old days.
Yeah,
Somebody's laughing at me, but yeah, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Tasha does it. Uh, I'm going way
I
back.
had many conversations just like
And I was like, Tosh, you remember?
this.
And you're like, no. Yeah, but I do. And, more current stuff for me is like, I love Carrie Underwood, Rascal Flatts, of course. Yeah. So
Okay.
I
Yeah, so
love the Dixie Chicks. I like
you're-
the Dixie Chicks because, see, I like what people don't understand. I love vocals. So if the vocals are incredible, I'm going to listen.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and Dixie Chicks changed their name to the Chicks
Yeah, yeah.
recently. Yeah,
They
and
have to, but I get it.
I'm 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 glad they did. Their lyrics are outstanding for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. That's dope. All right, so listen, check this out. Before I go off track, I have my 5 questions that I ask every guest when they come.
I'm not prepared.
You don't have to be.
Okay.
You don't have to be. You can just take as much time as you want.
Okay.
Willie Nelson is still my favorite. Yes, yes. Willie Nelson is still my favorite. Yes, yes. Willie Nelson, like the beauty about. I'm telling you, man. I don't know if you grew up in the '80s. Man, like we had everything. Music wasn't as segregated as it was now. So when you got MTV gave you everything. So you consumed a lot of music. That's another story. I'm going off topic, but that just hit my soul.
I
You
love
just got everything,
I love
and,
it.
and I just don't think that kids have that today. We had it when it was fresh and it was just hitting, and it was beautiful. We got everything from Dolly Parton to Bruce Springsteen to Michael Jackson to it was just a smorgasbord of just good music. And
Uh,
and that's all I listen to now. All
I
right, so
Music is a universal language. Like
absolutely,
that, no matter where you are on the planet, if you're listening to the same music, that you're connected and understanding that moment in a certain way. Composers have so much power.
they
They're
do,
the
they
like
do,
just supporting the story. Yeah. Okay.
and there's a lot of people. You listen to music now. Film does the same thing, by the way. Um, and when you do, and you add a film with a beautiful soundtrack, you
Mm,
got a masterpiece.
yeah.
A
Yeah.
masterpiece.
Well, and I love that like you can look at the same image and you change out the music and it completely transforms.
Yeah,
Like you can even have an actor just looking off into the distance and based on the music that you've got playing underneath, you've got a completely different scene.
totally. I'm gonna take it back one time because that just so. In the movie An Officer and a Gentleman, at the end of that movie, when Richard Gere comes in to the factory, he comes to get the girl because he just graduated from Navy school, and he picks her up and he takes her out. Richard Gere said that he thought on paper in the script that that was the most corniest thing. He did not want to do it. It's corny, it's cheesy. But when
Mm-hmm.
they and somebody, if you listening, if you know the name of this artist who sung "Love Lift Us Up Where We Belong," right? When they attached that song to the end of it, to that scene, he said he watched it at the screening and it just blew him away.
Aww.
I don't know. I can't remember the artist of that, the original artist of that song, but yeah, he said it blew him away, and
Yeah.
it totally changed the tone of the scene.
Well, and so much comes from the audio of the scene, you
Yeah,
know, because like that same moment without any music, like what are we watching, right?
right. It's like a nightclub in the daytime. You know, it looks like crap, right?
I didn't know the
But
walls
nightclub at night, lights going, is beautiful.
were yes. Like,
Joe Cocker, thank you, my dude. MVG 512. Yes, thank you. It's Joe Cocker. Yeah, he sings that song. That's what's up. Somebody still Gen Xers, man. I'm diehard Gen Xer. All right, back to my questions.
I love it. This is
Here we
so much
go.
fun.
So, what do you know about the industry now opposed to when you first started?
Oh well, I mean the industry has changed a bit since I first started. Um, like almost like what advice would I give myself like when I first
No,
started?
what do you know about the industry now opposed to when you first started? What you didn't know, what you may have
What
thought what it was.
I,
But
I know there are no rules.
yeah,
I know that when I first got into the industry, I was like, okay, I get an agent, and then I get a role, and then I get this, and like, I thought that it was a very linear career, and now I'm like, oh, there, like you go with this, and then you create your own path, like that's what it is. Yeah.
yeah.
Do you? I mean, do you feel the same way? Did you find it to be like that?
Uh, and I know I've said this before, but I thought that I had a very bubblegum vision of what the industry was coming in. Like I thought that because it wasn't a lot of people that I knew that was in the business at the time, I thought it was more like a family. I thought everyone liked each other. I thought we all were going to get along. And then I got into it and I realized, okay, I
Yeah.
learned a lot along the way. You know, I learned the what friendship is and what it's not. I learned with what when the people who truly have your back and those who don't. And I learned how to approach this industry like a job. So the same rules and the same boundaries that I set going into my 9 to 5 is the same rules I set when I go into any kind of audition or work situation when it comes to acting. You
That's.
know,
Can you give an example of that?
for example, I don't, okay, coming in to the industry, right? A lot of people, we start as a community, right? And everybody's sharing ideas and notes and information, and everybody wants to collaborate with one another, and it's just like this burst of creative energy, right? And then as we move, because that ignorance is bliss, right? You don't really know too much about the industry. You don't know the business of it yet. And then you move forward into the business, and all of a sudden things start to change. People come a little bit more guarded with the information that they have. No one's willing to really share. You know, people get accepted in a certain um, circles where they weren't before. Now they're accepted into these circles, and you're not a part of that circle, so they're not really, it changes the dynamic of the relationship a lot. When people start working as opposed to people who aren't working, I mean, it begins to like separate things. So you have to, what I've learned is to keep the people who I call my friends very close to me, and to cherish those, and to understand that it's okay. I'm not saying that any of this is wrong. I think it's just part of the process. But if you put it in perspective, you're able to say, you know what? I respect this person. Is he or she my friend? No, he or she is my colleague, and I respect them. I respect their work. I respect their hustle. I congratulate them on all of their wins. Um, if I win and they don't congratulate me, that's okay too. I'm happy that I'm moving. You have to stay in your own cubicle. You know, when you're at work, you're not in everybody's cubicle. Stay in your own cubicle, do your own work, stay in your own lane, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Couple things. I saw Cheetah Rivera speak, and that was the biggest thing that I took away from, it was like, what advice do you give? And she was like, stay in your lane. And this woman is like, you know, she's mature and she's on the stage and she's all the energy in the entire room and just like beaming with joy, and she's like, this is my lane. I don't go into your lane. You can try to come in mine, but you can't exist here. Like,
Absolutely.
I loved that. And the other thing is, like you're talking about that, like people can be closed off, and I think that that is indicative of their approach. And if they're, and you and I have discussed this about approaching the career,
Hmm.
life, whatever, from a sense of abundance versus scarcity.
Absolutely.
And I think that, there are going to be people that are approaching life from a sense of scarcity, and that's their journey. And that is, it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And you can recognize it pretty quickly if you start paying attention. And then you realize, like, oh, cool. Like, the circle that you're in is not one that I really want to be a part of, because I support the people around me. And I approach things from a sense of abundance. And I know that there's enough room for all of us to do well. I know that you're going to succeed as
Absolutely.
well as I'm going. I know that, and I trust that, and that's the circle that I'm going to be in. And it might be a lonely circle for a minute, but then other people get it too, and then you like find your circle.
Absolutely.
A lot of people in this business, there's a lot of people in the industry, and I know sometimes it feels like, well, this is it. Like this is it. It's gonna be over. Like I have to play this game. I have to do this thing, and it's like, no, you don't.
Ah,
There are great people out there that you can be around, and
yeah.
find them, nurture those relationships. Like you
I,
said.
I, I just had to learn to be
Yeah,
smarter about it. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And to use wisdom,
right.
in all of my approach, and to respect the people who are in it. Um, Gratitude and graciousness is always important. I never take for granted anyone giving me anything or opening a door. Even if you just crack the door open, I'm grateful to you for that.
Yes. I'm grateful for you not opening the door. Thank you for being here, man. Like,
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely.
I think, yeah, gratitude is transformative.
You know,
Love
the
you, bro.
smallest things, man. No, thank you. Second question. What advice would you give your 19-year-old self?
My 19-year-old self. Trust yourself. I think that in my personal journey, there was a lot of um, doing the things that I thought that I was supposed to be doing,
Mm,
and the things that I should be doing, and all the time knowing on the inside, like, this isn't right. And it wasn't really until recently in my life that I've been like, cool, this doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. I know this is right for me, and this feels fucking awesome, so I'm gonna do it. Can I cuss on your life? I
yes,
mean,
you can.
okay.
We're all adults. It's all good.
What about you?
Um,
What advice would you give your 19-year-old self?
everybody, people who always try to throw my questions. I will say, I don't know what I said the last time, but I'll probably repeat myself. It'll be okay.
Oh, God.
It will be okay.
Yes.
Because there was a point that I didn't think that it was going to be okay, and it is.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah. So that's
Can I just replay that like every morning in my adult self? Like, cool, it's okay. Like it's gonna be okay.
Yeah. We oftentimes we don't think so. Thank you, Josan, brother. I appreciate it, bro. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of times we don't think so. But it's I remember older people used to tell me all the time growing up, keep living. You'll find out a lot. Keep living. So,
Yeah, I think that that's great because when you're that age, you're like, cool. I already know everything that I need to know. What else is there? And then at some point in life, you're like, oh yeah, no, I'm never gonna know everything. Like
yeah,
I really
yeah.
want that. Will never.
Until you get in your 20s and life kicks your ass, and you're like, well, I really didn't know what I thought I knew. Because it will kick your ass, truly. What feeds your spirit?
What feeds my spirit? Nature. I'm a big nature person. Like put me at a mountaintop with a sunset and I'm replenished. What about you?
Same. Water.
Oh, water.
I'm always by the water, And now that I'm
You're
live
so,
by water.
aren't you?
Yeah,
That's smart. Is
yeah,
figure out what that is and then make that happen in your life.
yeah, yeah. Who knew? It's something I prayed about, and I believe that life and death is spoken through the power of the tongue. So you have to speak life, and whatever you want, you speak it,
Yeah.
because words have power.
They have so much power.
Yeah. So I believe in, you know, and even if I feel like there's any toxicity involved in what I'm feeling, I just choose not to speak it at all.
I think that's really smart.
Yep. So yeah. What do you want your legacy to be?
A legacy. Um, define legacy.
um,
What do you mean when you say that?
your legacy.
This word.
The measure of your life. Like, what would you want people to say about you when your physical presence is no longer here? What would you like your legacy to be?
I mean, this is such a funny question because I don't think that I'm, like we are just blips in time. The like the legacy that exists will only be there in the memory for a moment. Like I that's not something that I typically lean into. I try to be very present and live in the now and in this space because this is ultimately all we have
Mm-hmm.
and this is it. Um, I don't know. I hope people are inspired. I hope that people are um, excited to create their own work. Yeah, I don't, but that comes from them, like,
Right, right.
yeah.
What are you grateful for?
Thought about your legacy? Have you spent time?
Tasha! All right, my legacy. Again, I said it because Danny Bourbon. You remember Danny, my mentor, my mentee,
Yeah, yeah.
Danny back in the day. He just finished the episode of the Wu-Tang American Saga series. Danny's really doing. He's rocking out.
Ah, that's
He
awesome.
kept doing the same thing you do. And he's like, yo, so like, what's your legacy? And I'm just
I
like,
don't. Well, I'm like, yeah, like I can tell you my perspective, but this is like one little sliver of existence. Like, let's.
I
I'm
know,
gonna.
I know, but I think that for me, like, you know, I don't. I feel like I've always talked spiritual things on my podcast, or because that's the only perspective I really know where to come from to kind of give people answers.
I
And
love.
and you know, and I said this probably last week too, is when I looked at we're approaching the holiday season, and for most Christians, it's about the Christ in the manger story, right? And I always say that the story of Christ on earth is it is not about how you come into the world. It's the life that you live while you're here, because his life impacted people and he poured into people and he showed people things. He showed people miracles and gifts. And he said, look, everything that I'm doing, you have the power within yourself to do it
Yes.
also. Now where the legacy part comes in, and if we look at the crucifixion of Christ metaphorically, I interpret that as Christ transcends the grave because of the impact of the work that he did in his life while he was here. That will remain when you're gone from the physical body. The people you impacted, the lives you changed, the things that who we are now is because of the people who were here before us that poured into us. Our value system, our moral system, how we see the world. Me being able to just see a woman and make sure that I hold the door open for her and so she walk by. That's a mandate because that was poured into me from someone who is no longer physically present. That's their legacy. And I hope that my legacy can be poured into some other people as well.
I like that, spreading the light.
Yeah, truly.
I think that that's important too, is like understanding that that light that you have is not containable, and
Absolutely
when you
not.
share it, it actually gains.
Absolutely not.
You can't lose it, right? It's like, let me just share it with you, and then that person shares it with the next person, and that person.
It transforms like the caterpillar and the butterfly, right? It it, it
Mm,
it it just transforms itself. It doesn't energy doesn't go away. It just transforms from one thing to another. Just like all the elements, earth, water, wind, air. It transforms, but it's always present.
yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. Oh,
Um the last question is, what are you grateful for?
all the things, all the things. The journey, the day, the before, the after, the moment, the people in my life. I mean, God, the people in my life. Grateful for the light and the dark, and understanding that everything is a lesson in all of it. I'm so grateful for. I mean, every day I write and I talk about my gratitude. Every day, like, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this moment. I'm grateful for this opportunity to be on this planet today.
Yeah. It's
Do you have?
hard. So
Yeah. Do you have a thing you're especially grateful for today?
breathing.
Yeah.
Breathing.
Yeah.
Um I'm grateful for the opportunity to still be here in this physical body, and I'm grateful that for the small things that I can do on my own, you know, and I'm grateful for the things um, that I can do for other people and things to come for me, because I believe that everything that we're given in life is not for us, but it's for other people. It's for us to give back and pour into other people.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful to have the opportunity to be here so that I can be used as a vessel to do that.
I love that.
Yeah. Thank
I'm
you.
I'm grateful you invited me to this. Thank you for having.
No, no. Thank you for, taking the time to come and join me. You know, I can't wait to see what you have next. I'm willing to come down and be a cowboy in your film.
I
I
know
want the boots, the hat.
music, and I'm like, oh shit. Okay, I feel down. I'm like, let's go country
I
dancing.
told you I grew up on hee haw. I'm with
I
it.
would love to work with you again. Like, I would love to figure
Absolutely,
that out. So we will.
absolutely. Awesome to just plane right away.
True. Man,
Definitely.
thank you so
So
much.
what before I go, I want people to know that you have an acting coaching studio and you have a whole Facebook, no, I'm sorry, Facebook, IG page.
Yeah.
Um, Tell us about that and where can we find you?
Thank you for asking me that. I have I don't know if Marina's on here, but she was like, "Hey, like, you need to work on your PR today," and I was like, "Oh yeah." It's like, oh, that's right. I have to do the promotion. But yeah, so I run Straley Studios coaching. So I coach actors. I run an entire Discord server that is intentionally curated to be a safe space to nurture the artist, where we approach the work and our career from a sense of abundance and celebrating each other's successes, because each other's successes is our success. Um, in addition to the narrative content. So if anybody is interested in the coaching, then you just reach out to me directly. You can do it on Instagram and book an initial audition with me. And that's where we talk and we get to know each other, make sure it's a good fit. And if you want to support the film, then I just started a brand new Patreon. That's patreon.com/Straley Studios. And yeah, if you want to jump into that, that's a more public space, and all support is incredibly appreciated. So talk
What
about
do you mean by safe space?
a safe space. It's a space to come and take risks. And I run like a whole actors gym. So actors submit self tapes every week and I give feedback. And it's a place to try new things and to be like, hey, does this accent work? And then you do it and you're like, cool, no, all right. And, or that was really great. Let's go further with it, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so it's a place to come and to ask questions. You know, you don't know until you know. So that was something that was important to me when I was building it, is I want everyone to feel comfortable asking what they think might be a stupid question is actually a question everybody else is wondering.
Yeah.
So that's what that space is. It's a beautiful, beautiful space. And I have, you know, there's like amazing people in there that maintain the safety of it and the like the sanctuary of it. And it's cool because I started it last year, and I make sure that everybody knows before they come in that, like, if you're going to be in here, you got to be cool. There's no trolling, there's no negativity, like self-deprecation is not allowed. And like if you want that stuff, there's plenty of platforms for you to go to. But if you're going to be in this space, this is the way we work. And if you don't, I kick you out, and I've not had to kick anyone out. So it's great that everybody's honoring it and sticking to it.
Is it open for everyone?
After
Beginners,
an
intermediate.
yeah, after it's an audition process. So you can come to an orientation, which is free for everybody. And then from there, you sign up for your audition. And then from there, if it's a good fit, then you're welcome. And it's super affordable. I've tried to make it very accessible. So it's $10 for the community a month, or it's $40 to be in the gym. Yeah.
Good stuff. Good
Yeah.
stuff. I'm so proud of you, man.
Man,
So
thank you.
proud of you. No, thank you so much. You have always been just a beacon of hope and a light. Always. You've always been. I admire your tenacity and your ability to just be a go getter, and I thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I have nothing but respect for you. And I'm so happy anytime we get to interact. And I'm super proud of the work that you're doing. It's not mine to be proud of, but I'm very excited for you and
Thank you.
all the work that you're doing. And I love that you're bringing this platform to the industry, and having transparent conversations like this, I think, is really important and beautiful and incredibly valuable. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining me for this episode of Phil's House VIP. I will see you next Tuesday night on and that will be my last Tuesday night until probably June. Thank you once again, and I wish everyone a blessed evening. All right, Tosh, signing off.
Thanks, everybody.